Now, before we start talking about the key people, the individuals with all the inventions, with all the industries that they produced, and then, of course, the labor force, let's talk about America itself and some advantages and challenges that we as a country face trying to get into the Industrial Revolution. Now, from the very start, America had some tremendous advantages. They really did. And some of these are going to be very obvious. We are this country that is huge. It's a massive continent, and it is full of mostly just undeveloped land, with the exception of the East Coast where the colonies had been. Everything west of that, people looked and said, my goodness, look at all the opportunities that are out there to develop this. Most of Europe had already been developed over the centuries from people living there, but America was a completely different story. Now, the U.S. had either bought or had taken these lands obviously from the Native Americans who were living here at the time. They had purchased some from European nations. They'd purchased some from Spain, from Britain, and also from France. And then, of course, we talked about the Mexican-American War, where Mexico loses 1/3 of their country's landmass. They lose it, and now that became part of the United States, mostly what we think of as the southwestern part of the U.S. So we talked about this idea of manifest destiny. When we had finally reached the other shore of the Pacific Ocean, we were this tremendously huge country, and it really, from the outside, it really looked like this was a land of just tremendous opportunity and development. So that clearly was an advantage for the Americans. Now, early immigration, we're not going to talk yet about the large wave of migrations that come, but this brought people over from places like Europe who really considered the U.S. to be a land of possibilities. It was, like I said, it was a country that was open and growing and expanding, and those that had special knowledge, that had special skill, incredible ambition, and also really a willingness to risk everything came to the United States to try to make a completely brand new life for themselves. Now, with those advantages, there are some challenges that were there. Our biggest challenges was because it was undeveloped. We didn't have a lot of canals. Now, canals are like, you can float rivers, but canals are like small little rivers, but they have to be man-made. We did not have a lot of canals initially. So those canals had to be built so there could be greater shipping back and forth between the manufacturing places and the cities. Roads were very sparse. I mean, the cities had roads, but beyond that, there was maybe some dirt roads, and then beyond those areas, there really wasn't much at all. So a network of roads would need to be built eventually. And then, of course, the idea of railroads. Eventually, the railroads tie from the East Coast to the West Coast, but before those are built, there was no really fast way to travel across the continent. So those were definitely challenges. And, of course, there also was a shortage of labor. And so the original adopters, the people that started the Industrial Revolution, they looked at this and they said, if we're going to do this, we have to develop machines to replace human labor because we just don't have enough human labor. Now, later on, immigrants will come and help fill in those spaces, but these were the challenges and, like I said, the advantages that America faced as they began to enter into the Industrial Revolution.